Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, That's Ready Homeschool. My name is Mrs. T. Do you have a homeschool budget? Well, do you? Okay, I'm just being a punk, but seriously, do you have a homeschool budget? Comment down below before you go further. Post a thumbs up emoji if you do, and a thumbs down emoji if you don't. All right, so confession here, you guys. I have been homeschooling now. This is my third year, and I have not had a budget. Terrible. It's not because I shouldn't have one. I absolutely should have had a homeschool budget this whole time. It is simply because I was careless with my finances, and I want to confess that. So confession, here I am. I was careless with my finances. At the time that we started homeschooling, I was fully employed. I had a full-time job, and I was doing pretty well financially. My husband was also working. And quite frankly, we didn't really have to worry about how much money we were spending. We were very, very fortunate, but our circumstances have changed. I am now homeschooling full time, and we've moved now to one individual person who is footing the bill for everything. So it really got me thinking about trying to figure out how much I have historically spent, as well as how I can create a budget and fit that budget and meet that budget and be able to still have a very full and enriching homeschool. So today's video, I want to share with you guys my spending sheet. I want to talk about my budgeting plans, and I just want to be really transparent because at the end of the day, homeschooling can be so stinking expensive. Like, so expensive. There are so many resources, so many pieces of curriculum out there. And especially if you get wrapped into this world of homeschool, you're chasing here on, I should say, social media. You might find yourself chasing the greener pasture or the next trend or whatever it is, the thing that people are being paid to sell you. You fall for it and you buy. And there's a lot of good content and a lot of workbooks, a lot of books itself, and it can spiral out of control very, very easily. So I decided that I wanted to figure out how much I spent because I knew it was a lot. But I didn't know how much. I never actually put it down in writing and held myself accountable for how much money I was spending on our homeschool. So I just didn't know. It's terrible. It really is. So what I ended up doing is I started by looking at my first homeschool year, and I went through actually my curriculum pick video from the very first one, and I did it for my second year and now my third year. And I went through all of my emails, all of my receipts that I could find, and I grabbed the dollar amount that I spent for my initial curriculum picks. I then went through my mid-year reviews and my final plans, and I grabbed all of the curriculum that we ended up pulling in, and I called these our mid-year purchases. And then, I realized pretty quickly that my spending tracking was not going to be fully accurate. So full transparency, what I'm about to show you is not 100% correct because it doesn't include things like book purchases. I did not want to go through and spend a bajillion years trying to find all of the book purchases that I've made because I am kind of a book junkie. And so we do purchase a lot of books as a family, and sometimes they're on my husband's account, my account. I buy them in person, I buy them at thrift stores, and it was just too much. But I knew for my budgeting going forward, so for the 2026 to 2027 school year, I will absolutely include all of our book purchases. And the same thing go for games. It was too hard for me to find which games did I purchase specifically for school versus was this a Christmas gift? I couldn't remember. So books and games are not there. Now, additionally, there are a number of resources that I acquired before we decided we were going to homeschool. Whether they would be things that were gifted to us, things that I purchased on sale, things I got from Costco, Target, the Dollar Spot had a lot of workbooks and things like that. Walmart would have them on sale. So before we even decided to homeschool, I had already started hoarding some things. But again, I didn't go back in time that far. There was no way for me to tell a lot of that content. So this is not even including some of the workbooks and things like that we do own. they should be included, but I didn't really have the means to go back and do that. So full transparency is not 100% accurate. Okay, so we're going to go over our spending and we're going to talk about budget. And I'll go over it in my sheet. But I have decided that my ultimate goal for budgeting for the 2026 to 2027 year has to be set now, and I have to start preparing for it now. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be committing to curriculum for our next year now. That'd be insane. It is September. But I do want to get an idea of what would be realistic. So the goal here is to reduce my spending. It is to implement a budget. And there's also another aspect here. It is to reduce the amount of wasted curriculum and resources. So things that I don't need, things that I didn't use, I want to really hold myself accountable so that way I don't make those mistakes again. So let's go ahead. We're going to flip you around and we'll take a look.
All right, so here we are in our homeschool spending and now budgeting Google Sheet. And let's start by just going over the tabs that I have. I have a totals tab here at the bottom. This is a visual way for me to evaluate the data that's within the subsequent tabs. So I have a tab per school year. This is our third year of homeschooling. So you can see 2023, 2024, and 2025 starting years here all have their own individual tabs. Now, the way that this is broken out for each of these three tabs is identical. We have the child and the level. So for this first year that we did homeschooling, I had one kid in with preschool level. I did not have my second kid. And at the bottom here, I have mid-year purchases. The following year, we had my first kid was now in kindergarten. My second was in preschool, and our mid-year purchases. And at the very, very tippity top of these, as you just saw when I swapped tabs, are our totals. But let's first go through what we are actually summarizing in those totals. So let's break down the actual display per kid. So these are all going to be the exact same from these three tabs for the school years. So we have the grade level and the child it's associated with, the subject, and this is going to be coming in a list here. So in preschool, I didn't have all of the things, but you'll notice if I go into my current year, we have a lot more options because we've added some additional things. We've done things like social emotional learning and Spanish and sign language, things that didn't exist in that first year. So it's starting to get a little bit more robust in our curriculum subjects here. But we have the subject, which I will pick. We have a curriculum and a resource, and then we have a status. This was our first year of homeschooling, so everything was a new purchase, but the other possible status here is reuse. And then the source, or where I actually purchased the resource from, and then the cost. Here I have a notes column, so I made a note here that this Early Years Volume 1 was part of a bundle, for example, which has Early Years Volume 2 in kindergarten, which is important when we use those future levels in later years. And then I have this lovely tab here, or column called Assessment. And this to me is key, and I'm hoping that this helps me rein in my spending and my budgeting and makes me a smarter curriculum shopper. So I created these drop downs. There are 5 options. We have our good option here, right? This is the idea at the end of the year, we look at the piece of curriculum and we say, this was a good selection. It was the right time. To me, this is a win. This was a good selection. Then we have our 2 neutral options here. We have a good selection, but it turned out to be the wrong time, so we're pausing it briefly. And then we have used, but not the best fit. So we got our money's worth, but I won't be probably using that with my second child, or it just wasn't the right fit for my current child. And then we also have then these 2 negative assessments. Didn't use or stopped using. Didn't use would be for a piece of curriculum that we just had so much stuff we didn't even pull it out, and stopped using means it was a bad fit for XYZ, whatever reason. So here you can see I have assessed everything. And again, underneath the child here, we have our mid-year purchases. All right, so then let's scroll up to our totals. So the way that I break this out, and actually we'll look at this for the 2024 to 2025 school year. is I break it out the total planned per child. So for the kindergarten year, here we have our total planned. For our preschool year, you can see my total planned is 0. And that total is coming from how much money I actually spent on the child. So one thing you'll notice is this is where we start getting um, these reuse status here. And what that essentially means is the cost for this came from a previous year, was part of a previous year, and so therefore the cost for this year is 0. So you'll see let me go up here. This is a good example here of that blossom and root. That was part of that bundle that I pointed out. So because it was part of that bundle, the costs for that were eaten in the 2023 to 2024 school year. So therefore the cost for this was $0. So anyway, so we break down the total planned for kindergarten preschool in this year, and then we have our total mid-year purchases, and we summarize these three totals up to get our yearly spending. Now, then one thing that I'm trying to do is become, like I said, a smarter curriculum shopper. So now I'm looking at these negative assessments and I'm summing up those totals and I'm trying to see how much was really wasted money. Like how much did we not have to spend? Now, that's how we've been doing it for these first 3 years. For next year, what I'm really hoping to do is actually budget. I'm setting up a goal here for $1,000. And right now, it's only September in 2025. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm basically putting a bunch of resources that I'm interested in and I'm totaling them all. We are not going to be using them all. I'm putting in my notes. But what you can see here is this is going to help me know what my goal is and keep me honest, right? Now, I'm a graph girl. I'm a visual girl. So let's go over to our totals tab and take a look at this. All right, so you can see here we have two different graphics we're going to look at. The first graphic here says total spending per school year versus the budget. So again, I didn't have a budget for these first 3 years, but I did put in data so we can see what it would look like. But we have this red line here is going to end up being our budget, and the goal is to have this blue line underneath our red line consistently, starting with the 2026 to school year and beyond. So here we can see our total spending per year. This is just summarizing everything again that we spent. And the goal here again is to have a downward trend. I really want to try to be under that $1,000 next year. I want to see if we can do that. The next one that we have here is um, a graph here that will show our used versus unused spending per year. So basically that red total, these are going to show the wasted dollars. Like we did not need to spend that. And to me, I'm hoping that this kind of holds me accountable for overspending on things that we don't need, right? These are things that I'm maybe falling for trends or buying bundles or doing things that are not the smartest financial decisions. Now I want to hop over here to show you how this is going to adjust. So if we go into the 2026 to 2027 school year, I was previously considering adding IXL to our school year, but the more that I read about and learn about IXL, it's not going to be the right fit. So I want to show you how these totals and those graphs auto update. So right now we're at 1,271 currently planned, but if I delete out this column, this isn't a column, this is a row. If I delete out this row, you will see that this total now dropped. And if I go over to our totals tab, you can see that that is also dropping down. It's a little bit messy because they're right on top of each other, but you can definitely easily hover over and see that we are still above budget. So again, our budget's going to be for 1,000 next year. We're going to try to stay below that. And that's our sheet. I hope you find that to be pretty helpful.
All right, and that is it, you guys. I hope you found this to be very helpful, and thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up and a like, subscribe if you're here, and tell me in the comments your own budgeting and spending history. I'm curious. Thank you so much, everyone, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.